Yeah, so Access Aspiration asked me to just talk about my job and my career journey. So that's what I'm going to do for about 15, 20 minutes. And the way I was thinking about it is to like, right, how would I have talked to myself about these things when I was kind of 16, 17? So you guys may be way more clued up than I was when I was that age. So apologies if I'm telling you any stuff that you already know. So just about me. So I am a doctor and I specialize in treating cancer with radiotherapy in the hospital. But I'm actually working at the Institute of Cancer Research in a science laboratory. And I'm working on investigating new treatments for breast cancer. And outside work, I do normal stuff like probably quite a lot of you do, football, but I get injured a lot more now than when I was your age, and supporting Brentford, running TV and films. And I think that the main reason to mention that is I think fundamentally I'm still the same person now. Like I'm 20 years older than you guys. I'm still the same person now fundamentally as I was when I was your age. And I probably know myself a bit better and have like got some more skills, but I think that about me hasn't changed. And I think making decisions based on, who you are and what you really believe in is an important thing to do. So in terms of my job or jobs, so they're quite different to each other, the medicine bit and the cancer research bit. But as a doctor, it's really varied what you get to do. And I think that's one of the really great things about the job. So because I specialize in cancer radiotherapy, so I spend a lot of my time in clinics where you mainly talk to patients, examine them, explain what treatment they're going to have. Also, if the patients are more unwell and they're on the hospital ward, you have to see them there, make plans for the more seriously unwell patients, and then do a lot of planning for radiotherapy. So lots of calculations, quite a bit of physics stuff, mainly computer-based stuff. I've just said it's like nothing like Grey's Anatomy because I think a lot of people do get a really false idea of what medicine's like from TV shows, and I'm sure I did when I was young as well. A lot of it's very unglamorous. So you spend a lot of time doing paperwork, filling in forms. It's like really long hours a lot of the time. Often it is quite stressful and like emotionally stressful as well as just like hectic. But ultimately, it's really rewarding, and like the pay for medicines, I think it's quite good. You can go online and find out how much doctors earn in the UK. But I've got lots of friends who earn like a lot more money than me, being in like PR or marketing or whatever. And a lot of them say, actually, even though they earn a lot more money, they wish they were doing something that was kind of making a difference or contributing more in society. So I think that is a balance to kind of think about like what's important to you in terms of what choices you're going to make long term. And then as a cancer researcher, the data's a bit different. So in terms of practical stuff, a lot of it's just kind of working with cells in the lab. I don't know if there's a video is going to work. Oh yeah, there's just a video of some of my cells kind of growing and clumping together, and then they kind of start moving around a bit as they're growing. So I basically do experiments on this sort of thing. That's just a video made using a microscope. But a lot of it, again, is like admin stuff, going to loads of meetings. You have to give a lot of presentations. So a lot of people find that quite intimidating, but you do get used to it. But it is just something to be aware of. If you don't like public speaking, then science will be challenging, depending on what kind of role you go into within science. But again, as similar to medicine, what is similar about it is lots of paperwork, long hours, and it is stressful. Like you've got lots of deadlines, lots of pressures from like funding bodies and your grants and submitting stuff for conferences and writing out papers. So you generally have got quite a lot on your plate. So my journey, if you like. So I went to state school in London, which I think you guys do as well. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do for quite a long time. I think you hear people say like, oh yeah, I knew I wanted to be a doctor since I was like 5. But it's okay if that's not the case. And that certainly wasn't the case for me. So I quite wanted to be a journalist for a while. And randomly, I wanted to be a barrister for a while. Not that that's a random thing to do, but it was quite random for me because I was always more into science and other subjects. But I think whenever you make the decision, as long as you commit to it, then you don't have to worry about not knowing. And even within medicine, there's lots of different various points you make, lots of different choices about what you want to do. And it's okay to not be sure about things. And then, as you maybe know, there's 2 parts of medical school. The first 2 or 3 years, you do scientific training, learn your anatomy and biochemistry and that stuff. And then the second 3 years, you actually go into the hospital and start seeing patients and learn the actual clinical hands-on stuff. So the the first thing to say is that I didn't know I'd get into medical school. I wasn't like the best kid in my year. I wasn't like second or third best kid in my year, but I thought, oh, I'll apply because I think I quite want to do that. And I did get in, which was a nice surprise. And then actually I failed first year, and I thought I was right. They shouldn't have let me in. But it didn't necessarily hold me back. I think one of the big things I learned, this sounds stupid, but like at uni, I really learned how to work hard. I thought I'd worked quite hard at school, but compared to like being at medical school, it was like a whole different thing. And I think that was probably, in terms of what I've taken forward into the rest of my career and different aspects of my life, I think that like really knowing how to like do self-directed learning. Because at school, certainly at my school, you just turned up, did what the teacher said, and that was fine. But actually, like when you've got free time every day and it's up to you what you do or don't do, it's really hard to get down to do stuff, or I find it hard to do that. And learning how to manage yourself and work hard when you haven't got like teachers or parents there, I think is a real like skill that you learn, and I certainly learned. And yeah, so by final year, I was like, right, I've got to sort this out. So I worked like literally up at 7, library by 8, all day, worked except for like meals, and rinse and repeat every day. But it worked, and I got a really good grade at the end. But it was a big kind of transition, like going through medical school. So from not being sure I was going to get in and not doing well to start with, that development, like certainly what is possible, and like was possible in my case. And the second part of medical school, it wasn't really an academic decision, but some medical schools you can like switch halfway to different ones. And I grew up in London, but then my parents moved out of London whilst I was in like second year. So I didn't have anywhere to go and stay when I wanted to see my friends. So I thought, oh, well, I'll just switch medical schools, move to London, and then I've got like my social life, because that's really important to me. So not every decision you make has to be based on like, oh, what's going to be best on my CV or whatever. It can be for whatever reasons are important to you. And the happier you are, the more like settled you're going to be and able to do well and achieve well. So I think, think about those factors as well as, academic type stuff. And then, so you do medical school, and then you basically continue training. So I'm 37 and I've got an exam next year. So unfortunately it doesn't stop for a long time. So you kind of continue doing training. So it's not like, oh, I've done medical school, I'm a doctor now. Sweet, finished. Unfortunately, it keeps going for quite a long time after that. But yeah, so I did most of my postgraduate medical training in and around London. Then I wanted to be a pediatrician, so like treating children, but I didn't get a position in London to do that. They offered me a position in Oxford, but again, I didn't want to be somewhere I didn't know people, so I didn't take that. But I did get an offer to do adult medicine in London, so I thought, oh, fine, I'll do that instead. And actually that decision's worked out really well for me. So it wasn't what I wanted at the time, but I thought, well, I'll just take that opportunity that works best for me for all the factors in my life, and go with it. And then I took 2 years out of medical training in the UK to go and do some voluntary work, just because that was something I'd always wanted to do and something I believed in. And I didn't have a gap year. And I thought, rather than do a gap year and go somewhere where I'm just kind of looking around at stuff, I'd rather go when I can actually contribute to a community somewhere. So most people do that, take their years out kind of after 1 or 2 or after 2 years, but you're not that skilled at that point. So I waited a bit later. So I did it after 4 years of training. So I'd done some of my postgraduate qualifications because I thought I'll be more useful going to work in hospitals when I've got more knowledge and skills. So I worked in Zanzibar for most of it for over a year, and then Sierra Leone just for a little bit. And oh yes, that's the hospital I mainly worked in London. That is the place in Sierra Leone, and that's the hospital, one of the hospitals I worked at in Zanzibar. I then did cancer medicine training. So basically every few years in your postgraduate medicine, you have to apply for the next stage of your training. So you do like your general couple of years, then you apply for like adult hospital medicine, and then you apply for your subspecialty, which in my case was cancer medicine. So I was doing that for 4 years, I think. And then I took some time out of that to do a PhD, which is what I'm doing now at the Institute of Cancer Research. And I just wanted to highlight, I think when you look at someone, I guess you guys looking at me, but equally like for me, looking at my bosses and the professors and people that I look up to and say, right, I want to be like them. You look at them and you think, oh, they're amazing, and they've done all this stuff and they've got all these publications and stuff. that I don't have, and they must have just smashed everything at every point and just always been amazing. So that's me talking about them, not you guys thinking about me. But that certainly wasn't the case for me, and I'm sure it wasn't the case for them either. And there's going to, whatever job you choose to do, there's always going to be setbacks, but they're not the end of the road, and you'll get knocked back, but that doesn't mean that you're not good enough or that's not the right thing for you. It usually just means that that wasn't the right opportunity for you at that time. And I mean, sometimes there isn't like an objective reason, not like you didn't have a certain qualification that you needed, you need to go away and get that, but often it's just the circumstances at the time. So yeah, I mean, I got some brutal feedback at medical school from some of my work, and I failed some of my exams, and I didn't get the first choice training, postgraduate training thing I wanted to do. And I had meetings with lots of different supervisors about different projects, and they were like, basically they said, yeah, well, we don't think you're the right person to come and work here. But nonetheless, I've had other good opportunities. So if you do have setbacks and failures, which we all do in our careers and our lives, you don't have to think that means that that thing's not for you. I mean, it may mean that, and you may need to rethink and consider what your options are. But if you really believe in something and like you're really dedicated to wanting to do it, you don't have to take a rejection as meaning that, you know, that's not the right thing for you. Something else I thought about was, right, what are the main things I would tell if I was still speaking to myself now when I was younger? And I think I'm naturally a bit of an anxious person and not necessarily super confident. So I say to myself, if I'd, you know, believe in myself more, there were some opportunities that I had that I thought, oh, I'm just not good enough to do that. I don't want to like put myself like out there to maybe get that. But I think the more experience I've got, I've learned that actually often I was a better candidate than I thought for things, and I should have just given it a go. And if you do get a rejection, you know, or you know, you're not the right candidate for that, then so be it. But I think if I believed in myself more, I might have been able to take more opportunities than I did. I think the other thing is about, again, worrying about stuff is sometimes through school or like your parents or friends' parents or whatever, someone might say, oh, I know someone that does that, why don't you go and have a chat with them? But I was always like really worried about, oh, I'll make a fool of myself or say the wrong thing or whatever. But actually, no one really cares about that stuff. You can always learn from people who are in positions that you might want to be in. And if those opportunities are there, I think don't worry about like what people might think or say or whatever. I think just go and learn and get some experience of what things are like. And I think that's helpful because like on your UCAS and stuff, you can say, oh, I spoke to X, Y, and Z person. But also sometimes they'll say some stuff that makes you think, actually, now that I know more about that, I don't think that is what I want. So I think if you do get opportunities to get in touch with people or speak to them, then I really encourage you to do that. And one thing that I think that of all the things that kind of have gone wrong, but like all things that I didn't do as well as I might have, I think one thing that I always have done is just worked really hard, basically at whatever I've done, and sometimes at the detriment of social life and that sort of thing. But I think that really has helped me or stood me in good stead. I think whatever opportunities, even if you're not sure if it's what you want to do, I think if you work hard, you will get a lot out of stuff, and other people will realize that you've done that, and that may lead to more opportunities down the road. Yeah, so just to finish off, I think so the take-home messages I think would be, if there is something you're really passionate about and you really want to do, believe in yourself as much as you can, and you know, apply, have a go, and then if you do get an opportunity, just work as hard as you can. If on the other hand you have setbacks or failures, then they're not necessarily the end of the road, and you may need to go back and learn more or get some more experience, but they don't mean that you have to give up on something that is what you want. And more specifically about actual medicine and research, I think they are really rewarding. They're, you know, meaningful jobs, and you're doing things that are ultimately going to help people. And there's a lot of job satisfaction in that, even if the money's not as good as like some other careers. And again, so that depends on what you want in life and what you believe in, but they are very rewarding. But I would bear in mind that they're really hard work as well, and you get those rewards if you're willing to like put the time and the effort in. Yeah, cool. So I think that's all. So if you've ever got any questions about any stage of that, uni or medicine, research or anything else, then just put them in the chat box. Or if there's any questions you're not sure about or don't want to ask in this forum, you can forward them to Access Aspiration, and they can to me, and I'll try and reply to them by email. Or if we run out of time, then I can try and do that as well. Cool. I think that's all. Thanks very much.